Hello everyone, today we will learn 3 ways to blend colors. You can follow these techniques in any drawing app or software, but I'm going to demonstrate using IbisPaint X. So without any further ado, let's get started with the rough or textured blending. First, we are going to magically draw a circle and then take a basic round brush with hard edge. And it must have low opacity. I cannot stress this enough. If your brush opacity is not low, you won't be able to get a good blending result. What we need to do is to build up layers. If you paint on the same area over and over again, it will automatically give you 100% opacity, and you will be left with some gradient areas which will be super helpful for blending. Now that we have different colors, notice how the gradient areas are overlapping with each other and creating a new hue. That is how you get the blended look. You don't even need any mixer brush or smudging or blurring. All you have to do is to keep your brush opacity low, create a gradient between two colors, and color pick from the overlapping zone to blend out both the colors. But if you are feeling lazy and don't want to do all the color picking and blending, you can simply use a blending brush. With just a few parameter changes, blending will be a piece of cake. Even if we are using the blending tool, please use low opacity brush if you want to have that textured look. This is the brush settings you need to create your very own blending brush. First things first, you have to target all the intermediate zone between two different colors or hues. Secondly, you have to blend along the shape of the object. And also, the light is falling from top left corner. So, you should move the brush according to that as well. Even if you are using this mixing brush, it will still leave some brush strokes behind because of the nature of the brush. So if this is the style you want to go for, then basic hard round brush is for you. There are lots of texture brushes out there, but before using those, make sure you have mastered this brush. I made a mistake by going for fancy brushes and ended up making mess in the beginning of my art journey. So I don't want you to do the same mistake. The first blending is done, and this is how it looks up close. You can see those subtle brush strokes. Somewhere it's more visible and somewhere it's less visible, but it's there. Next up is semi-smooth blending. This time you need your brush with not so soft and not so hard edge, and the brush must have faded ends. If you are not using IbisPaint X, you might not have these settings or have a different type of settings for making your blending brush. But don't worry. Like I said before, you can simply go for color picking in between two different colors and blend those out. Most of the time, I actually do that myself. I only use blending brushes when I want to finish something quickly. I will be honest that blending brushes might not give you the best results all the time. You might have to fix things manually, and that's actually the best way because you have more control over your brush. Like right now, I'm going to do what I just said because I am not really satisfied by the result of the blending brush that I'm currently using. Personally, I think color picking technique works the best for pen fed brush specifically. But if you are working with the rough edge brush, then blending tool is the best way to blend things out. So that's how it looks if we blend the rough edges using a relatively smooth brush. Now let me put them side by side so that you can see the differences in between brush strokes. And finally, it's time for the smooth blending lovers. You just have to use a normal airbrush with similar parameters. Mind you guys, this is strictly a blending brush. This is not for solid filling or creating any kind of gradient. This is strictly for blending. You can use if you want to, but it's not recommended, honestly. Before you guys say that this technique is also very similar to every other brush, let me tell you that there is a thing about airbrush you must remember, and that thing makes it different from the previous two. One point I already discussed, that it is strictly for blending, not for any other purposes. And the other point is your brush size must be bigger. You simply should not use small sized airbrush for blending. It will ruin everything, and that makes it the super tricky technique. If you can figure out the perfect size, which should be definitely bigger than usual blending brush, more than 50% or around 50%, then the blending will be done super fast compared to the other two. But then again, it's difficult because there's a chance of making everything look overly blended, and the original colors might get lost in that process, producing something muddy and blurry. I used to be a big fan of airbrush, but it made my art look very blunt with no sharp edges and whatsoever. So my tip would be, use it as a blending brush, but don't overuse it, or don't just rely on this brush. Now that we are done with all the processes, let's compare all the spheres side by side. You can go for any of these styles according to your taste. I personally like this one the best because it gives you the best of both worlds. You can have smooth blending with a hard edge at the same time. Then again, recently I am having more fun with textured works, so maybe at some point this will be my top choice. But currently, the hard edge and semi-hard edge brushes are both my preferences. And then, as you probably predicted, airbrushing is my least favorite way of blending. But if you can excel in that and you enjoy it, then definitely go for it. I hope this was an informative tutorial for all the beginners out there who are confused by all these crazy numbers of brushes available everywhere. Just stick to these and try blending. I'm sure it will be good for you. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Till then, take care.